Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sara. Today we're going to talk about personal leadership. I'm going to give you a story that where I had to let someone go because of something they said when they were guiding and they were supposed to be co-leading beside me on a retreat. I want to talk about that personal leader within yourself, though, because we all have it. We have this leader, this guide that moves us forward in our life. And I think so often I've seen it where people underestimate or they don't listen to that leader within themselves. Now, I don't think that, in my own personal and professional opinion, that everyone has the capacity to lead teams or, to be a CEO or an owner of a company, whatever it is. I don't necessarily think that everybody has the capacity for that. And that's my own private or personal and professional opinion. That said, I do think that we all have the capacity to lead ourself in a better way. And when we do that, we become our own, as I call it, the CEO, the owner of our life. Because I think so often we are led by other people that we forget to lead ourselves. We don't even know how to lead ourselves. We get lost in the shuffle of what this world is. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait, dying, taking our last breath, going, what the heck just happened? So where I want to come home to is the leader within you. There are a couple of things that will lead you better. Number one is know your why. It's a very simple thing. Know your why. Why are you here? And the best way to actually dive into your why is to get back to what are my values and what's most important to me. I remember I had to do this exercise when I was going through coaching at my own coaching school, and we were in one big circle, and we were going in the circle talking about the things that are important to us. And it came to me and I said, what's really important to me is truth, is honesty. And I just broke down crying. And I had this massive realization in that moment, like literally like sobbing on the floor, broke down crying. Everybody was like, uh-oh, is she okay? And what I had in that moment was this realization of how many times that I listened to everybody else's truth but my own. And how many times people were lying to me in order to move forward in their life in a way that worked for them, didn't work for me though. And so in that moment, I had this like, wow. First of all, I'm an insanely honest person. You ask me a question, I'm going to give it to you. Sometimes, I have to ask first, can I give you my honest opinion? Because I think that so often in my life, I've been lied to, betrayed, and it sucks. And the only thing that I think we really need more of, like one of the things that we need more of in this world is truth and honesty, starting with ourself. And so when I realized that in that moment, I'm like, wow, truth, honesty, that is one of my top values. And so when you start to distill what your values are, you become your own leader in life when you start to, because it always happens, like it happens to all of us where we start to kind of like move away from our values. And then we're like, well, why does this not feel right? Well, wait a second. I'm actually not honoring the values of me, which is why I'm not liking where I'm at in my life, right? And so when you can start to distill what your values are and who you are, that becomes your true north, or as I like to call it, your navigation. We all need that navigation because let me tell you something, no one's walked your trail in life, right? Like you are blazing your own. And so that becomes your own true north, your own navigational tool. So get down to that, like really start to distill what are my values, what's important to me. How do you do that? You just look at the times in your life where you've been super happy, you've been super sad. The emotions typically for me will drive my values. So if I'm starting to feel angry about something, like yesterday, I woke up upset. Why? Because my house was a mess and I was very upset. The messes were not mine. Believe it or not, I live with boys. And what I realized in that moment was I cannot stand chaos. Like I like simplicity. That's one of the things that I value. I value having things organized. I value an organized mind. I value an organized space. And so, in that moment where I woke up and I was upset because I walked out into the kitchen and dishes were all over the place, and I'm like, wait a second, I just cleaned this up. Why am I cleaning up somebody else's mess again? Right. And so, when those emotions start to rise, you start to realize what's really important to you. So, start to pay attention to that. That's one of the biggest leadership tools that I can tell you is keep your emotions in check, right? Like keep your emotions in check. And when your emotions start to rise, what is it that is being dishonored in who you are and the values that you walk in? So that's the first thing. The second thing in your personal leadership is find what you are passionate about. Those things that bring you joy every day. What are the things that you want to deliver in this world? Right? Like for me, when I started going through my own personal leadership journey, 12 years ago, when I was going through everything and finding who I was again, I realized that I had so much passion for adventure. And I had so much passion for guiding other people and for leading people into the space of happiness and joy and what it was to be free again, because I was experiencing that myself. And so I wanted to guide people into their own personal leadership, which is what got me into this work. And what got me into doing all the things, writing the book, doing the TED Talk, like speaking, coaching, just all of it. And when you can distill, like what brings you joy every day? When you wake up, what is the thing that you wake up for? Within yourself, right? Like what is the thing that just brings you to a place of enlightenment? And when you're really working on your values, that joy piece, like that passion piece is also going to come to fruition, because as you are working through your values and you're starting to distill what they are, other things are going to fall to the wayside. Other people might fall to the wayside. That's okay. And so as they fall to the wayside, you're going to create more space for the things that are really going to bring you happiness and that you want to put into the world. And then the third thing that when you're really working on your personal leadership is start to play with it. Start to play with it because, for anything to come to fruition, you need to think outside of the box. And when you're playing with it and getting creative with your ideas and the things that are important to you, you will start to bring forth and up, you'll start to bring out all these different ideas and ways of doing things, right? And so I remember when I started my business and man, people were like criticizing me, they doubted me, they looked at the thing that I was doing as simply a hobby. What is she doing right now? I was questioned. And I think most of the reason that I was questioned was because I didn't look, quote, the part of what everybody else thought that a guide or somebody that led people into the Grand Canyon, Alaska, that somebody that stood on stage, somebody that wrote a book, I didn't look the part, right? And so other people's judgments will come into play, right? Don't allow them to actually be in the circus of play within your life. They're going to come into that space, and you need to be able to distill very quickly and very carefully the things that matter and the things that don't. And so have your ideas be what is most important in your leadership in terms of your own personal leadership. Like I'm not talking about with teams and things, because with teams, you need to have other people's ideas come into play, right? I'm talking about within your own life, your personal leadership. Listen to your ideas, align them with your values, get passionate with them, think outside the box, and move forward with those ideas, because that's where everything is going to start to come to fruition. I cannot imagine if I would have listened to everybody else's doubts when I started my business. I was talking to one of my former clients about this yesterday. I said, can you imagine if I would have listened to everybody else's doubts when I had this idea myself of leading people through the Grand Canyon? I said, you wouldn't have gone on all these retreats with me. You wouldn't be the person that you are today because of what you learned in the process, right? And the same with being on stage. Like if I wouldn't have taken my ideas and actually brought them to fruition and not listened to everybody else, if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have the keynote that I have today, where it's literally descending into our challenges and our change and ascending in our own agility and lasting growth. Like, none of that would have come to fruition. So your ideas matter. Play with them, get creative with them, think outside the box, right? And align them with your values, your passion, your purpose, and who you are. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's most important of all of this. It's how you speak to yourself. What you say comes to fruition. Remember that. What you say comes to fruition. And here's a perfect example. When I was leading a group, I think it was January of 2020, I was leading a group out of the Grand Canyon. And as we were coming up the canyon, I stopped and asked a ranger, hey, what are the conditions like at the top of the canyon? Because they had just come down and said, oh, it's fine, totally fine. You guys are good. You don't need microspikes. As long as you have your shoes and your poles, you're good. Okay. So we start hiking out, and that wasn't the case. The conditions changed. And I'd actually asked like 2 or 3 rangers about this, by the way. And the conditions changed and the trails started to get icy. Now, I want to use this as a metaphor for your life, all right? So the trail started to get a little icy and we kept going forward. We were going very slow. Now, I had a co-lead that I had hired for this trip. And I trusted that that co-lead could keep their emotions in check, right? That they could say what needed to be said to also get everyone out of the canyon. Because when you mess with somebody's mindset, it messes with everything within them. It will mess with your thoughts, your actions, who you are, your emotions, all of it. You have to stay in the right mindset as a leader, as a personal leader, because that also is instrumental when you are, out in the world, right, with other people. So we're hiking out. The conditions change, it's icy. And this person, this particular co-lead, said something. I could feel my team, the people within my team, getting afraid. Now, not all of them, but some of them were really on edge of like, okay, this is getting like hairy. And, you have to keep everyone in check in their best space, starting with yourself. And my co-lead said something to the effect of, this is, and I won't use the words because they were not good, this is effing ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. He lost his cool. And I don't remember exactly the words, but it was something to that effect. Totally lost his cool and used the F word. I remember that. And just was very upset. And I remember in that moment, literally in a flash, I was like, I will never, ever work with him again. I will never allow that into my space when I am guiding other people, because it starts with yourself. The words that you say are the words that you become. And when you have to start with your own personal leadership first. And when you can have your own personal leadership intact, then you can start guiding other people. What that told me in that moment was he was not leading himself first. And if you're not going to lead yourself first in a good way, in the way of, true north, that you can keep your emotions in check, that your mindset is in check, that even when the doubt comes in, that you push the doubt aside for your own safety, for your own for everything that you want to create in this world. If you're not going to do that first, you cannot lead others to do the same. And that was the moment where I was like, peace out, man. That got pinned very quickly, and I have not had him work with me since. Because when you start to go down that road, it's especially in a position like that, in a situation like that, it's very difficult to bring everybody else back in. And your energy matters. How you show up every single moment when you're in that leadership position, personal and also when you are guiding other people, it matters. And it doesn't take much for things to go astray. And so what it did for me in that moment was I ended up having to shift my energy even more, where I was like, okay, Sarah, like you got to shift that energy even more and really like don't go down the rabbit hole, because in that moment, I could have gone down the rabbit hole myself and been like, you're right, this sucks, blah, 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 and like jumped on the bandwagon of fear instead of jumping on the bandwagon of, faith and integrity and safety and knowing that we were going to get out of there, right? And so in that moment, it was a big learning curve for me as well. And more so, I peace out, man. Don't need that. Don't need that in my space. And so when you are thinking about and when you are really stepping into your own personal leadership, I want you to be very aware of how you are speaking to yourself and the words that you are putting out into that world. Because if you are saying things like, we all suck, or I suck, or this isn't right, that's what you become. And it starts with you. So be aware. Okay, so personal leadership, your values. What is your passion, right? What is your purpose, your values? What is your passion? What gets you up every morning? Your joy, what gets you excited? And then play with your ideas that are within you. And I promise you, and more important than anything, be aware of the words that you speak, because the words that you speak are who you also become. And with that, I promise you that you will continue walking down that own blazing trail of personal leadership that will take you to that space that you want, which ultimately, when we leave this earth, hopefully we leave knowing that we did what was intended, right? And that we leave in peace and knowing that we're not leaving with regrets. We're leaving with, though I think that we all leave with some sort of regret here and there. I think it's also leaving knowing that you became that human that you were intended when you were placed onto this earth so long ago. If this touched you in any way, please share it with those people that you care about. Please share it into the world. Tag me, Sara at Sara, at Sara Schulting Cran, so I can reshare. We do have, I want to mention this. We have 2 retreats coming up. Now, the Grand Canyon at the bottom, Phantom Ranch, is closed right now. So if it reopens, we are going to be leading a retreat the end of June, I believe. Now, I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon this weekend with Joe, and we are going to hike rim to rim to rim. And so I will find out more then when I'm there as to what it's like down there. Because anybody that knows me knows I'm very careful of where I lead my retreats. And so I'll get more information then. The one that I do want you to pay attention to is in July. Now, this one's already starting to fill. It's Florence Williams and myself. I believe it's the 22nd through the 25th. There's the 25th to the 28th. I got to look and see. It's the 25th to the 28th, I believe, of July. And that's Florence Williams and myself. We are leading that in Telluride in the San Juan Mountains. It's an amazing retreat. We've done this now for, I believe, 3 years. The retreat center that we go to, it's this incredible cabin high up in the San Juan Mountains. And it's a beautiful space for you to come home to who you are and to work on that own personal leadership and to laugh a lot. So if you want to laugh more, come to this one, because we laugh a lot. We do hiking out into places that you can't get to otherwise in the San Juan Mountains. Is it really physical? No. I mean, there's some physical aspects to it. Yes. There is also, it's not like the Grand Canyon, right? Where you're like descending on in. Though even that, so much of it is mindset. So if this interests you, the rates are going to increase March 15th. So please message me now if this interests you, Sara at SaraSchultingCrans.com. I'd love to jump into a conversation and see if it's the right fit for you. It is, I have to say, one of my favorite places to be. Telluride's incredible, and I love leading this retreat with Florence. So again, Sara at SaraSchultingCrans.com. Now, we are also on YouTube. Go watch this there. We are having some changes with our podcast. More on that soon. And so definitely go subscribe to YouTube. Go subscribe to the podcast on all platforms. And rate, review, and please push this out into the world so we can help others as well. Thank you for being here. If it wasn't for all of you, I wouldn't be here. And also for my own personal leadership, working on that for so long. Do the same. Let me know how it goes, and we'll continue pushing more incredible content to all of you. Thank you.